Radio Freedom, the voice of the African National Congress, South Africa's time-tested revolutionary movement, born of the people into the front line, to spearhead the people's struggle for the seizure of power from the oppressors, a product of the battles of the African continent for liberation.
This evening, the program shall be presented to you in English, Zulu and Sotho by comrades Mahlomola Tau, Edward Dube and Richmond Ramotsi. Now stand by.
Here we are from far-flung Africa. Here we are from a land divided against itself. Mothers deny the comfort of family life. Mothers deny the comfort of raising children in peace. We dare to rise up above the limits of kitchen life. We emerged out of the belly of imperialism and reaction. Proud wives of loving husbands whose courage slavery has failed to destroy. He was a loving husband. I last saw him in the darkness of the night. And as the sun shone, he was dying in the dark cell. They said he hanged himself. It is not true. Matebula had a gentle heart and came from Swaziland. He disappeared underneath the soil, searching for gold. He left me with 4 children. The eldest, who was our breadwinner, died in Soweto. How long must we suffer in this way? How long must our wombs bear children, only to see them die of malnutrition or from racist bullets? My son, who disappeared into exile, fleeing persecution, was murdered in his sleep in Mozambique. Indeed, the air we breathe in Southern Africa has the aroma of blood, the blood of our brothers and sisters, of children in Angola, Zambia, Namibia, Botswana, Lesotho. We raised our voices in support of all these frontline countries. We sing songs of praise for their courageous support. We hold out our hands to all the women of the world to join us in our cause. We women are mothers of our nation. Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi.
Dear listeners, our program this evening brings you a drama on the oncoming tri-racial elections, so compatriots, stay tuned.
That's a beautiful piece of music, Pat, playing there.
Macy, where is your elder sister? It's 7:30 and she's still not here. What's happening? A severe disco too.
I don't know, Daddy, what is happening. She said she was going to a rally, which was going to be addressed by Dr. Busa. I thought she would be here by now, at least too.
That is what she told me also. Maybe she has some problem with transport.
Say hoe van die UDF predikant van haar, ne? She thinks Busak is the political leader in this country. She must ask from us and we'll tell her. She's still a learner in politics.
Daddy, I've changed my mind.
What? What are you so excited? You've changed your mind about what?
I've changed my mind. I'm no longer going to vote. In fact, I'm going to burn my registration card.
Why? What happened? Is that what Busak was telling you to do the whole of this afternoon?
Daddy, I have realized that this whole idea about constitutional dispensation and tricameral parliament is just a farce.
Oh, it's only now that you realize that I told you exactly the same thing about a year ago. And you thought you knew and went to register, isn't it?
I told Zelda the same thing, Pat, and she dismissed me as politically immature.
What is this whole talk about? I told her. You told what to?
That this whole constitutional arrangement was
just a farce.
Where do you get that from?
Look, Daddy, look. Both and his co-races have worked out this new scheme in such a way that they will always be in the majority. There is a built-in majority in this tricameral arrangement, which guarantees the perpetuation of white domination.
And you know, as a result of that, I tell you, it will be impossible for the representatives of the other racial groups to push through bills that might, bring about radical economic changes for us, the black people in this country.
And therefore, in the final analysis, the role of the representatives in the parliament will simply give some semblance of multiracialism to a structure that is essentially racist.
What is happening in this kitchen? What is this whole argument and noise about? Why do you people want to turn my house into some kind of a happy bar or a shebeen?
As your gangers, hulle dink hulle is no groot broers and sisters. They want to convince me that the new constitutional arrangement is not a move in the correct direction and that we should boycott the oncoming elections.
I tend to agree with them, you know, Miss Kat. I'm beginning to have doubts about the wisdom of going to vote. I've registered already, but I don't think I will vote. I think this whole exercise is time wasting, actually.
May Here God.
Compromises are always concrete. You strike a compromise while ensuring that your own position is not being jeopardized. The compromise must be such that it leaves you at least with some ground to be able to continue your struggle. But this one, with a built-in majority, is no compromise at all. But I tell you, it's treachery of the highest degree.
You are just talking English, my boy. The only thing is that your English is tinted to some politics.
Daddy, tell me, are you aware that taking part in this whole arrangement of bothers is going to mean that young India and so-called colored men are going to be conscripted into the army as well?
That is what I wanted to talk about too, you know?
And my child won't go there, I'm telling you. I'm not going to let Pet die in defense of the Group Areas Act, the immorality laws, and all the rotten laws of this country.
And the racist discourse.
That's your only concern, Macy's. Discourse is what you know. I don't understand how the rest of you three look at things. While you insist on the need for the black people of this country, to be given equal political rights with the whites, you don't want us to have equal political obligations.
Lavi, look, I think you are one of those people who have been fooled into thinking that Botha is a man of change, a realist who has grasped the realities of our country and our region, and who is ready to conform to the demands of this situation.
And he is exactly the opposite of that.
I think you three are just victims of the radical propaganda of the ANC. Zelda, can you make us some tea, my baby, so that we can cool off our heads? Pat, get me my cigarettes.
Daddy, the tea is ready. Mommy, do you want milk in your tea?
Yes, please.
Pat! Pat, where are you? Macy, there's yours in the mug.
But why did you make it half full?
Ah, Macy, don't be petty. This is no lunch or supper, it's just tea.
I'm not talking to you.
Shh, just shut up, you two.
Pat thinks he knows better.
Of course.
Pat and Macy, tell Makharas as a blief toch. You know, Meskat, I mean, even at this last hour, Botha still insists that the African people must go to the Bantustans, that they are not citizens of this country. I mean, how many millions of people have been removed forcefully to these Bantustans of his? He claims that they will exercise their so-called right to vote, and that is only in the Bantustans. Unlike you, he does not say their case will be looked into in the future. Botha is unambiguous about that. He makes no such promises.
So we are expecting Botha to openly admit that his Bantustan system has failed. He won't do that. In fact, it will be very foolish of him to do it, because you know this will give us even more courage and confidence in the final victory of our struggle. But it will also discredit him in the eyes of his own followers. They will lose confidence in him. To avoid this, therefore, he must give an impression that he still stands by his words. He knows for sure that the Bantustans can't just work.
And you know what impression are you giving me, Daddy? I think you are just arguing for the sake of it. Whatever you may say, I'm not prepared to change my mind. And I'm not going to vote.
I'm not going to vote either.
The same with me.
As for me, I am not only going to end there. I am actually going to agitate against voting. I'm going to encourage those who have already registered to ban their registration cards, whatever the repercussions. The Labour Party, I will ensure that the Labour Party must be fully isolated and exposed for what it really is, a group of petty opportunists. This is my stand.
You have been listening to the Youth Forum of Action, which brought to you a drama. The participants were Comrade Welile Nhlapo, who is the head of the African National Congress Youth Section, who played part of Mr. Van Rensbeck, Comrade Sipho Ngcobo as Pat, Comrade Pauline Mashaba as Macy, Comrade Nompi Mokgotsi as Zelda, and Comrade Mavis Nhlapo, who was Mrs. Van Rensbeck. So, dear listeners, tune again next Wednesday the same time on the 31-meter band, shortwave 9505 kilohertz. Comrades, the message in our drama is, let those who are turned into floor mats of the apartheid, terrorism, and violence. Comrades, we call upon the youth in their various formations to render unworkable the racist scheme to divide our people into tribal and racial groupings. Let us, in our hundreds of thousands, say no to the tri-racial elections and forward with the Freedom Charter. This is Mkhulule Skhulule and colleagues saying, forward to a people's government and down with racist elections. Amandla, Matla, Yarula, all power to the people.
people start coughing. The people start coughing. The people start saying. The people start saying. The people start coughing. The people start coughing. The people start coughing. Some shange cha. Some shange cha. Some shange mota. Tina some shange mota. Tina some shange mota. Tina some shange cha. Some shange cha. Some shange mota. Tina some shange mota. Tina some shange mota. Ai some shange some shange some shange kratpe. Tina some shange kratpe. Tina some shange kratpe. City there people shall say. There people shall say. There people shall come. There people shall come. There people shall come. There people shall come. Aye. Kuchotina. Kuchotina wafana bomkondo. Asikumule. Sumule. Tina songena ngechambo. Siwelele. Sumule. Tina songena ngechambo. 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 Siwelele. Sumule. Tina songena ngechambo. Siwelele. Sumule. Tina songena ngechambo. 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 Siwelele. Sumule. Tina songena ngechambo. Siwelele. Sumule. Tina songena ngechambo. Tina songena ngechambo. Tina songena ngechambo. Tina songena ngechambo. Tina songena Tina
Our task is to make government impossible for the apartheid regime. Making government impossible means, in practical terms, that we must destroy those institutions that facilitate government for the Pretoria criminals. Among these institutions, we count the community councils, the Bantustans, the tri-racial parliamentary fraud, the pass offices, the rent offices, the courts, the police and army. Any of these institutions is a target of our revolutionary onslaught. Because it is through these institutions that Botha and Malan are able to control our lives. Anybody then who participates in these structures, who, like the community councillors, deliberately takes steps to defend and protect these institutions, is without doubt an enemy of the people. It means that such a person is aiding and abetting apartheid. Such a person cannot be spared. There is only one fate that is facing the apartheid regime. There is only one way that the evil system of apartheid can take, and that is the road to destruction. Already, Pretoria is approaching the precipice. It is on the edge of the bottomless abyss of shame and disgrace in which all oppressive and colonial regimes have fallen. It goes without saying that the agents of Pretoria, the defenders and perpetrators of this system, must go with it. They must follow it. The apartheid regime has outlived itself. Its destruction is long overdue, and its continued existence is a constant reminder to us that we have a war to fight. The length of time that the fascist regime continues to spend in our country, how long it continues to oppress, exploit, and murder us, depends on us. It does not depend on the oppressors. It is through our struggles, our steadfast and relentless assault on the enemy, that will determine the duration of Pretoria's existence. Today they are fighting with their backs to the wall. We have shown them through the heroic struggles of the past months that we are determined to rid ourselves of the scourge of apartheid once and for all. They have called in their fascist army and police to try and regain lost control, to try and grab the initiative that has slipped from their hands. Is it a wonder then that even the puppets are trying to mimic their masters by organizing their own instruments of oppression and violence? However, the big question is, who at this 11th hour, who on the eve of the destruction of apartheid would dare join these community councillors and the apartheid authorities in the defense of this evil system? Who on earth would stake his or her life in defense of a doomed system? We say confidently that very few of our people would do that. Let them do their dirty job alone. Let us not join hands with the oppressors against our own interests. What we need to do is to intensify the onslaught against the puppets, the traitors and the puppet institutions. Let us compile a list of those community councils who have voted for the funds to institute the police force of oppression. Let us strike first before they have the opportunity. Let us instill fear into them by hitting them one by one at times and places of our own choosing. This is a war situation. The one who wins is the one who can devise superior tactics to those of the adversary. We have a number of advantages over the enemy. We have the superiority of numbers. His economy rests on our shoulders. We work in their kitchens. Let them feel us. Let them fear each and every black man in South Africa. For indeed, the truth, the profound truth, is that each and every one of us is a freedom fighter. Each and every one is a guerrilla. The struggle continues, victory is certain. Amandla ngawethu, matla kyaruna, all power to the people.
Sinethulela uhlelo lwesiZulu luka Radio Freedom ngomsakazo kumlomo kakhongolo sinhlangano lelinkululeko eNingizimu Afrika.
The African National Congress of South Africa has welcomed the momentous campaign against apartheid, which is taking place in the United States. In a message to mark the 73rd anniversary of the founding of the African National Congress, Comrade O.R. Tambo said these activities will help in pressurizing the Reagan administration to reserve its support for apartheid South Africa.
We pay great tribute to the millions of people involved in the ever-expanding work within the worldwide anti-apartheid movement. They constitute a solid base of support for our struggle internationally. It is through their daily and sometimes unknown efforts that governments and peoples are kept alive to and mobilized in action against the numerous ploys of the South African racists to whitewash apartheid. In this context, we welcome the momentous campaign undertaken by the people of the United States, which involves legislators, judges, bishops, trade unionists, and other outstanding personalities and government officials, and which is targeted on pressurizing the Reagan administration to reverse its support for the Pretoria racist regime.
That was the president of the African National Congress, Comrade O.R. Tambo.
Angola bachata jani emlonyeni weswane tuma bafana bazo school Ethiopia bachata jani emlonyeni weswane tuma bafana bazo school Ethiopia bachata jani emlonyeni weswane tuma bafana bazo school baba tambo tuma bafana Eba tuye, Ebantu Yesu Mandela so washaya mabundu. Ebantu Yesu Kelente. Ebantu Yesu Kaya. Ebantu Yesu Mandela so washaya mabundu. Ebantu Yesu Otudagalo. Ebantu Yesu Otudamkundu.
Kiyaruna, 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 Mawatamo. Kiyaruna, 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 Mawatamo. Wawila checha, wawila checha, wawila checha, wawila checha, wawila checha, wawila checha lemura.
On this day, we are singing songs about the men and women who were children once. We are singing of gone generations that exist in our hearts and our minds. Makana and his returnless journey into the depths of the sea. Mandela and all the chained men and women in all the dungeons that are part of our earth. The trade unionists who went to the gallows singing. We are singing of Silverton Trio, Morocco 3, Solomon Mashangu. We are singing to the graves of Matola and Maseru, the sung and unsung matters of our time.
The people shall govern, apartheid must go, forward with the year of the Keda, all power to the people. You have been listening to Radio Freedom, the voice of the African National Congress and the People's Army, Umkhonto We Sizwe, coming to you from the external service of Radio Zambia in Lusaka on shortwave 31 meter bands, 9505 kHz. Until Thursday, this is Richmond Ramotse saying the struggle continues and victory is certain.
Umkhonto We Sizwe. Umkhonto We Sizwe.
This is Radio Freedom, the voice of the African National Congress, South Africa's time-tested revolutionary movement, born of the people into the front line, to spearhead the people's struggle for the seizure of power from the oppressors, a product of the battles of the African continent for liberation.
Comrades and fellow countrymen, here is a message of this year from the ANC President, Comrade Oliver Tambo.
In the name of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, I declare the Year of the Women and charge the entire democratic and patriotic forces of our country with the task of joining in the effort to mobilize our women to unite in struggle for people's power. In our beleaguered country, the woman's place is in the battlefront of struggle. It will be our special task this year to organize and mobilize our women folk into a powerful, united, and active force for revolutionary change. The task falls on men and women alike. All of us together as comrades in struggle, we wish to stress the need at the present hour for the emergence on the political scene of a women's movement that is politically and organizationally united. Our struggle needs and demands this potentially mighty force. Our struggle would be less than powerful, and our national and social emancipation could never be complete if we continue to treat the women of our country as dependent minors and objects of one form of exploitation or another. Certainly, no longer should it be that a woman's place is in the kitchen. To all true patriots of our country, we extend best wishes for success in our common struggle during this, the Year of the Women. Mobilize and march forward to people's power.
A very good evening to you all, friends and comrades. You are now tuned to Radio Freedom, the voice of the African National Congress and the People's Army, Umkhonto We Sizwe. We are on the air daily, broadcasting from the studios of the External Service of Radio Zambia in Lusaka on shortwave 31 meter band, frequency 9505 kilohertz, from 7 to 7:45 p.m. your time in South Africa. This evening of the 27th of December, in the historic year of the South African women, Radio Freedom, your voice of liberation, will present with a program of news, which will be followed by our Thursday current affairs program. After that, our program shall continue in the Zulu language.
Baba,
In our program tonight, we shall present to you our commentaries under the title, South Africa is in a state of war. The English commentary will be presented to you by Comrade Don Ngubeni.
A kind of state of war is developing between the police and the people. This is an assertion of the South African Catholic bishops in a report that tabulates the crimes of the South African fascist police. The 38-page report categorically states that, quote, the overwhelming impression created by the affidavits as a whole is that the police behavior in the townships resembled that of an occupying foreign army controlling enemy territory by force, without regard for the civilian population, and it appears without regard for law, close quote. Some of the incidents quoted by the report are blood-chilling. Such are the atrocities committed by the fascist police that Hitler must be rubbing his hands with glee in his grave. The incidents include the point-blank range shooting of one young man and the rape of some young girls by the police. A typical example of police brutality during the upheavals in South Africa is given in the report. Referring to it as one of the most serious incidents, it goes on to say, we quote, a policeman approached a group of black detainees in a van in Sebokeng on September 28th and angrily demanded his jacket, which the youths said they did not have. The policeman pointed his gun at Jacob Muleleki and shot him in the forehead at point-blank range. Muleleki died and his companions were made to wash the blood from the truck, close quote. In another incident, 2 girls of 15 and 16 were raped 3 times by white policemen. And in one Pretoria township, a female student was beaten with a baton and sjambok by a policeman. The report says, quote again, she was bleeding profusely from the mouth, and the policeman told her to sit in a dirty puddle and wash herself, close quote. During the incident, the policeman was laughing and he beat her again. The report charges the police with indiscriminate use of firearms, beatings, assaults on mine workers, damaging property, the indiscriminate or reckless use of tear gas, and looting. The upheavals and demonstrations, which began in early September, have now claimed more than 170 lives. The report is indeed an eye-opener for the international community about the criminal behavior of the fascist police in South Africa. The people of Europe and the world at large breathed a deep sigh of relief when Hitlerite fascism was defeated in Europe by the Allied forces. They prayed that never again should mankind ever experience such inhumanity and cruelty. Little did they realize that even at that moment in time, fascism was rearing its ugly head in the southern tip of Africa. The experiences of the black people in South Africa under the apartheid regime are the same as those of the people in occupied countries of Europe. It is indeed ironical that the governments of the West, who joined forces in the struggle against Hitlerite fascism, are the same countries which today are supporting apartheid militarily, economically, and politically. They are the ones who are counseling our people to be patient and give Botha and his murderers holds a chance. They are the ones who are using their veto in the United Nations to protect apartheid from international sanctions. They are the ones who invited and received Botha on his mission to sell apartheid. One cannot help but wonder whether this does not in itself smack of racism. They did not invite Hitler. They did not counsel negotiation with Hitler because their people, white, were dying. They took up arms and fought. In South Africa, black people are dying in their thousands. They are being exterminated by methods which have been used by Hitler and have been perfected by apartheid. And yet, they continue to engage in so-called constructive engagement with Botha. We shall not forget that the guns and bullets used to murder our people come from the Western countries. The planes used to invade neighboring countries are supplied by them. The tear gas, the technology, and the chemicals. Our country will be free, with or without the support that Botha enjoys from the Western imperialist countries. And then they will have to contend with the aggrieved people of South Africa. We shall never forget, never. For us, the people of South Africa, our course of action is very clear. We must fight back. The path of compromise that has been taken by the traitors and puppets is not open to us. The path of surrender and subservience is also not open. It is foreign to us. There is only one path and one path only. It is the path of relentless struggle. It is the path of sacrifice. It is the path of war and glory. What is today happening in South Africa has been happening throughout the years. We have been murdered in cold blood by Pretoria's police thugs. Our children have died of malnutrition in the Bantustans, while food was being destroyed to maintain high prices. The wealth of our country has gone to make a minority white population, as well as foreigners, to regard our country as one of milk and honey, while we starved and died. They have murdered us in numerous ways, not only just physically, but even spiritually, through their inferior education. It is a measure of the resilience of our people, their refusal to surrender, that even today the battles are raging in our country. The war of liberation continues, and it is intensifying with each passing day. The time has come for us to acquire weapons and to pay the white minority regime back in its own coin. We cannot die alone. We cannot bury alone. Pretoria has carried its murderous campaign to extremes. We must now respond to the reactionary violence of the enemy with our own revolutionary violence. The weapons are there in White Houses. Each White House has a gun or two hidden somewhere for use against us. Our mothers work in their kitchens. We work in their gardens. Let us deliberately go out to look for these weapons in these houses. It is now a matter of life and death. Let us find these weapons for use against the enemy. There are gun shops in the cities where weapons are being sold. Naturally, they have elaborate security systems. But again here, some of our people are working there. Study the security system with the aim of neutralizing it for purposes of a night raid to get the weapons. The lone policeman must be made a target. He must be destroyed so that we can get his weapon. The isolated police station in the outlying areas. These are all places where there are chances that we can get weapons. Even if we get one gun for a start, with it we shall be able to get more. We must learn the tactics of fighting, how to attack and retreat without endangering ourselves. We must learn to lay ambushes for the armored personnel carriers and police cars that patrol our locations. We must learn to make homemade bombs, which are lethal. The factories are also a target for sabotage. Forward to victory in our lifetime. Amandla ngawetu, matla kiaruna, all power to the people.
Shoot to kill, get it up. Shoot to kill, get it up. Umkhonto We Sizwe. Solomoni, yo 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 yo, 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 Uyinsizwa yomkhonto We Sizwe, uliqhawe lekhaya le-Afrika, uyinsizwa yomkhonto We Sizwe, uliqhawe lekhaya le-Afrika, Solomoni, yo 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 yo, 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 uyinsizwa yomkhonto We Sizwe. lekhaya le-Afrika uyinsizwa yomkhonto wesizwe uliqhawe lekhaya le-Afrika wemangube yoyoyoyo nawe wemangube yoyoyoyo nawe wemangube yoyoyoyo nawe wemangube yoyoyoyo nawe masingena ekhaya nizonyaka masingena ekhaya kuzotata masingena ekhaya nizonyaka masingena ekhaya kuzotata wemangube yoyoyoyo nawe wemangube yoyoyoyo nawe wemangube yoyoyoyo nawe wemangube yoyoyoyo masingena ekhaya nizonyaka masingena ekhaya kuzotata masingena ekhaya nizonyaka masingena ekhaya.
Dear sisters, daughters and comrades, our struggle in this year of the women suffered some remarkable setbacks. The apartheid regime went out of its way to harass severely the neighboring African countries that shares its borders and even beyond them, killing many innocent lives, maiming others, and destroying and causing a lot of damage to their economic achievements. It has tricked Mozambique into signing the so-called non-aggression pact, the Inkomati, and thus temporarily won our ally to its side. The trick that culminated in these unfortunate encounters of our people being captured by the enemy and taken to South Africa in Swaziland, and the subsequent removal of large numbers of our people from Swaziland and Mozambique. All these were maneuvers by the enemy to divide the people of Southern Africa. Let us keep our heads up and not lose sight of who in fact the enemy is. We should at this stage mention that the unwavering support given to the liberation struggle by the frontline states during this period was solidarity in its true perspective, and solidarity that came at the right time. The frontline states came out more united than ever before and called for no more committees. With the coming back to power of Ronald Reagan of the United States of America, the warmongering regime in South Africa is sure of even more support in its aggression against the neighboring states. Our young students have come out in their thousands in demand for a better education and proper representation. Some schools which have been on boycott since early this year are still empty to date. Most of them are closed. The Indian and colored community in our country have shown their strong rejection to apartheid by boycotting the so-called tri-racial elections. The workers have very successfully used their economic weapon to show how much power lies in their hands. Umkhonto We Sizwe, the People's Army, has continued right through the year to strike at the enemy in defense of the people's demands. This year saw uprisings and demonstrations against high rent and increase of bus and other transport fares. All these are an expression of what our president described as a combination of political and armed struggle. As usual, more repression ensued. The regime came out in its military force using live bullets against unarmed people, both young and old. Many have lost their lives throughout the country. This brings us to the end of today's edition of Dawn Breaks, the revolutionary voice of the African National Congress Women's Section. Coming to you every Thursday evening at 9:30 South African time.